So what do you do when the compass breaks? When you're out in the wilderness without a map, what can you lean on? What on earth can you trust? A couple of years ago, my wife and I drove our firstborn from East Tennessee to Vermont to drop him off for college. After 2 days of travel and a night in Burlington, my wife and son took his car south to campus to begin setting up, and I stayed back to rent a car to help with the move-in and also to get Molly and me back home. And I remember the emotional cocktail humming low in my chest: parental pride, impending grief, mild irritation from the rental car app, and just enough presence of mind to act like everything was fine. Driving solo through the early autumn mountains of Vermont, I found myself in the kind of landscape that looks either like a train set or like you've driven into a Robert Frost poem. Something was ending, something new was beginning, and I felt utterly unprepared for it. As I drove, I had the GPS running on my phone, following that familiar purple line, letting the algorithm steer while I drifted into bittersweet reverie, and then my phone died. I mean, cold, dead, black screen, no GPS, no directions, no charger, no idea what road I was even on. I believe that road signs may have been outlawed by the state of Vermont at some point in recent years. Now, I probably should have turned around or stopped and asked someone, but instead I did what we all may often do in moments of disorientation. I just pressed on. Surely, I thought, this would all resolve itself. It did not. I drove deeper into Vermont's labyrinths of roads and mountain passes. No phone, no map, no landmarks, just me and a growing realization I was completely lost. No idea how to move forward, no clear way back. I sat at a crossroads in the middle of rural Vermont with the empty nest years out before me, and I thought, what do you do when the map disappears, when the compass breaks? And maybe that's not just a question for a sentimental father in a dead rental car. Maybe that's a question for all of us. Because if you've been paying attention lately, this week, this year, this decade, you know what it feels like when the compass breaks. This is 4th of July weekend, of course, and many of us grew up believing that this country, for all its flaws, had a built-in compass, a moral arc, a promise of liberty and justice for all. We believed, many of us, that the courts in the end would hold, that facts in the end would matter, that elections were sacred, that if you just followed the rules, worked hard, stayed informed, well, somehow you'd be okay. Things would be okay. Many of us believed in progress and decency and common sense, and then here we are, July 2025, just days after this big, beautiful bill was signed into law, while the rights of our neighbors, the dignity of our bodies, the very idea of truth is quietly redacted. Now, some of us feel like strangers in our own land. Others feel like we're finally waking up to what others have known all along, and perhaps there are a few of us who said, I told you so. And it's not just politics. That's broken compass feeling is showing up in so many places. The diagnosis that reroutes your future, the layoff that threatens your sense of purpose, the conversation that cracks your family in two, the betrayal by someone you trusted, the tense quiet at the kitchen table. The moment you realize that the map you've been using, your career plan, your theology, your idea of yourself does not actually match the terrain that you're in. The signs are missing, the GPS won't load, the landmarks have changed, and you're not sure which way is forward, or whether forward even exists. Maybe you trusted institutions to uphold what's right. tradition to anchor what's true, certainty to quiet your doubt, optimism to get you through, even your own instincts to guide your way. But what happens when these no longer hold, when the compass breaks? Maybe we go looking for answers. Before we go looking for answers, let us remember what still speaks when the maps fail. The Lord is my shepherd, the 23rd Psalm begins. I shall not want. Stay with me, Unitarians. I know you. I am one of you. Don't freak out. Stay with me. The Lord is my shepherd, says the 23rd Psalm. I shall not want. She makes me lie down in green pastures. She leads me beside still water. She restores my soul. During my years of ministry in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, home of the Oak Ridge National Lab, a town full of scientists and engineers, I noticed something. When things got hard, when the bottom dropped out, when someone was dying or grieving, I would often hear a request for the 23rd Psalm. Not because these humanists and atheists suddenly became believers in the supernatural, but because in the valley of the shadow of death, I think they wanted words that could hold them. Words older than doctrine, older than doubt, words that spoke directly to the cry of the heart. And that's what this psalm offers, not a helicopter out of hardship, not wishful thinking, but accompaniment like this. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Even in that dark, something endures, something accompanies. Those who first heard the words of the 23rd Psalm were themselves people in exile, people who had seen their own certainties crumble and their own institutions fail, people in the wilderness, people not unlike ourselves, and yet in that upheaval and disorientation, these were people closely attentive to the patterns of life, to that which persists. And as a community, they captured their observations and their thinking in these poems that endure like people who can vegetables for the winter. We, in our time, can do likewise. For those of us who see the sacred woven into the natural world, there are patterns of life we can trust even when the compass breaks. So, what can we lean on, even here, even now, after all that we've seen? I want to propose 3 of perhaps the many things which I think can be trusted. These are relationship roots reality, loss leads to life, and pressure produces possibility. Let's unpack these one by one. Relationship roots reality. No living thing thrives in isolation. From the roots of redwoods to the heartbeats of humans, life is connection. When Dr. King wrote in his letter from a Birmingham jail about an inescapable network of mutuality, he was evoking this pervasive contingency, each thing and each of us nested in a larger pattern of life. This morning, you may feel alone. The story in your mind may be that of disconsolate disconnection, but you are always already connected, held, cross-stitched into creation. Even the lone wolf howls to be heard. Relationship roots reality. The thread of life holds. That's number 1. Number 2 of the things that I think can be trusted is that loss leads to life. A fallen tree feeds 1,000 seedlings. Compost becomes bloom, ash becomes soil. Every death deepens the dirt from which life rises again. This is not sentiment, friends. It's science. It's soil. The loss you thought would undo you may even now only be clearing the field. If there is anywhere on earth a lover of God who is always kept safe, I know nothing of it, for it was not shown to me, wrote Julian of Norwich, echoing out to us from the 14th century. If there is anywhere on earth, she says, a lover of God who is always kept safe, I know nothing of it, for it was not shown to me. But, she says, this was shown, that in falling and rising again, we are all kept in that same precious love. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's frightening. Yes, you've known loss. But this is not a dead end. Your story isn't over. Loss leads to life. A setback may be the seedbed of resurrection. That's number 2. Here comes number 3. Pressure produces possibility. When the pressure mounts, don't panic. That's when evolution does its best work. The caterpillar collapses and a butterfly is born. The crucible of stress cracks the shell so the future can crawl out. Adaptation is the biological process that confirms the historic Black church conviction that no matter what, love makes a way out of no way. You may not see the shape of it yet, and you don't have to. Pressure produces possibility. Emergence always exceeds the script. These aren't theories, these are truths that trees trust, that tides know, that stars rely on. In those valleys of Vermont 2 years ago, as the afternoon light was beginning to dim, I was lost not only in the geographical sense with my dead phone and no GPS to be found, I was lost in the deeper sense of who on earth I was anymore and what I was for. I had left the parish ministry to start a new career. My most active parenting years were now coming to a close, and I wasn't sure what this phrase, empty nest, people kept telling me looked like for me. The years themselves seemed to be accelerating. I had no map for this. At some point in that wayward journey, I pulled off to the side of the road, turned off the car, and just sat. And then prayed. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear, for you, life, are with me. For you, love, are with me. For you, Holy One, are with me. I did not have a way forward. I did not have a map. I did not have a plan. But I had something to trust in, something to guide me, something to lean on. I restarted the car, my heart calmer, my mind clearer, and headed south. Maybe this morning you too have been wandering aimlessly, lost and unsure. Maybe this morning you find yourself on the side of the road with no map and no compass. If that sounds anything like how things are for you this morning, I want to tell you, you are not alone. Nothing is wasted. The future will surprise you. And if you believe that, if these laws hold, if relationship roots reality, if loss leads to life, if pressure produces possibility, what could that mean for you? Not clarity, not certainty, not control, but faith in such a light might look like this. If relationship roots reality, then reconnect. Call the friend. Write the letter. Return to what you may have recklessly abandoned. Repair what has been frayed. If loss leads to life, then create. Take those broken pieces and begin again. Immerse yourself in the grief that cherishes beauty where it had heretofore gone unseen. Become a midwife of new beginnings. And if pressure produces possibility, then hope, fiercely, quiet-eyed, refusing to mistake the darkness for the end. You were never meant to walk this alone. You were never meant to waste your pain. You were never meant to stop evolving. Repair and reconnection, creativity and transformation, hope against all the evidence, the simple tools of survival, the ways of those who keep walking. And all of us together, we were never meant to stop walking. Let me close with a story. In 1943, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the depths of Jim Crow. A group of black women working in the R.J. Reynolds tobacco plant were done being disposable. Led by Velma Hopkins, they formed Local 22, one of the first fully integrated unions in the South. In the shadow of lynching and retaliation and intimidation and threats, they organized, marched, and sang. They acted together even against the bribes of those who tried to divide them because they trusted they were not alone. They acted in faith even after so many generations of death and degradation because they knew that loss leads to life. They acted in hope because they knew even then that they had not reached the ending point of history, but that pressure produces possibility. And so they took fire from that forge. They weren't after pats on the head. They weren't after half measures. When asked why she risked everything, Velma Hopkins said, "We didn't come for no 2 cents. We came for justice." They didn't have a map, but they moved anyway. They weren't handed power, they became power. They came for justice, and they lit the fuse for the civil rights movement to come. They created a blueprint, and now it's our turn. We, the covenant makers, the justice seekers, the broken-hearted believers in what love can still become, even now. We don't walk with all the answers. We walk with one another. We walk even when the path disappears. We walk even when the compass breaks. We walk because values don't point the way, they become the way. So we walk for those whose rights are stripped in the name of law, for those whose bodies are legislated out of belonging, for the earth weary of extraction, for the sacred too long exiled from the public square. We walk not alone, not without fear, and never without love. And when we lose our way, as we surely will, we will turn to one another. We will listen for the whisper of the Spirit, and we will remember that the compass may be broken, but the call is still clear. So let the valley echo with our footsteps. Let the table be set in the presence of every power that said we could not. Let goodness and mercy chase us down. We will walk on together.